He moaned my name like it was the only word he had ever known. His breath was warm against my neck, trembling, desperate, as his body pressed against mine in the dark. We were not supposed to be there. I was not supposed to be touching him, letting him touch me. But every fiber of my being screamed that I needed this, needed him. And the most twisted part of it all, that voice, moaning my name, did not belong to my husband. It belonged to his son. Welcome, my beautiful audience. If this is your first time here, thank you for clicking on this story. And to my returning viewers, I see you and appreciate you deeply. For those who have not yet subscribed, I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button. It truly fuels this channel and gives me the energy to keep bringing you these raw, emotional, and unforgettable stories. And please do not forget to leave a comment below. I want to hear your thoughts, your judgments, your truths. Let us get into it. My name is Claire. I am a 36-year-old woman living in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Oregon. The kind of neighborhood where people wave from their lawns and pretend they are not hiding their own dirty little secrets behind white picket fences. I thought I was one of the normal ones, married, settled, safe. But I married a liar, and now his stepson moans my name every night. I met Greg on a Tuesday. That is a detail I never forgot, because it was raining, and I hate the rain. I had just left a yoga class when he walked up to me under a navy blue umbrella and said, "No one this beautiful should look so sad in the rain." It was cheesy. I laughed, but then I looked at him, really looked, and saw something I had not seen in a man in a long time. Greg was older than me by a few years. He had a strong build, graying hair that suited him, and this charming calmness that made you believe everything would be all right as long as you were near him. He was recently divorced, with a grown son away at college. I was childless and coming off a string of failed relationships that had worn me thin. We dated for 6 months before he proposed. It was quick, too quick, if I am being honest. But I wanted stability. I wanted a man who could protect me, provide for me, and give me that perfect life I had imagined since I was a teenager. Greg had a beautiful house, a steady job, and all the right words. I moved in the same week I said yes. The first sign of trouble came just 3 weeks after our wedding. I found a receipt in his office drawer, one for a hotel stay during the exact time he had told me he was on a business trip. The name on the other guest was not his client. It was a woman's name. When I confronted him, he laughed and said it was a group booking. He called me paranoid, overthinking, emotional, and like a fool, I swallowed it. But the seeds of doubt had been planted. Over the next year, cracks started forming. Greg began staying out late, offering vague explanations about networking and meetings. He stopped touching me. Conversations became cold, dry, mechanical, and intimacy, it died completely. By the time his son Ethan returned home from college for summer break, I was already slipping into a dark place emotionally. Loneliness clung to me like a second skin. I would lie awake at night, watching Greg sleep with his back turned, wondering if I had made the worst mistake of my life. Ethan was 21, tall, lean, and full of fire. He had Greg's strong jawline, but his eyes were different, sharp, curious, and always watching. The first time I saw him walk into the house, with that cocky grin, I felt something I did not want to admit: attraction, lust. It was inappropriate, it was wrong, but it was real. I tried to stay distant. I tried to pretend he was just a kid, but Ethan was nothing like a boy. He carried himself with confidence, challenging my every word, calling me Claire instead of stepmom, with a smirk that told me he knew exactly what he was doing. The tension between us built slowly, silent glances across the kitchen, his shirtless torso appearing around corners, a hand brushing against mine. Just a moment too long. One night, I walked into the living room to find him watching a movie shirtless on the couch, legs spread wide, eyes dark with something I recognized. I turned to leave, and he said, "You are too beautiful to be so unloved." My breath caught. I did not respond. I just walked away, but my legs were shaking the whole time. The line between guilt and temptation began to blur. Every time Greg ignored me, every time he came home, smelling like perfume that was not mine, I felt my resolve crumble. I started craving Ethan, not just physically, but emotionally. He saw me, he wanted me, and I hated how much I wanted to be wanted. The night it finally happened, it was storming outside. Greg had gone on another trip. I was curled up on the couch, with a glass of wine, when Ethan came in, drenched from the rain, his white shirt clinging to every muscle. "You look like hell," I said, trying to sound annoyed. "I could say the same," he replied, eyes locked on mine. We stared at each other for too long. The air grew heavy. Then he stepped forward, closed the distance, and pressed his lips to mine. I did not stop him. We kissed, desperately, furiously, like we had both been drowning, and finally found air. We did not sleep together that night, not fully, but we crossed the line. My hands explored him. His fingers found places Greg had long forgotten, and when I tried to walk away, he whispered, "You deserve to feel alive again." I spent the entire next day in bed, trying to forget what his lips felt like on my skin, trying to forget how, when I closed my eyes, it was Ethan's face I saw. That night, I woke up to a soft sound. I crept out of bed and followed it. The hallway was dark. The door to Ethan's room was slightly open, and that is when I heard it. Claire. My name, deep, breathy, filled with desire. I stood frozen. My name again, louder, faster, gasping. He was alone, but he was thinking of me. I should have walked away. I should have slammed the door, screamed, something. But I stayed. I listened, and a sick, twisted part of me felt powerful. That night changed everything. My name was no longer just mine. It belonged to his stepson now. The next morning, I could not look at Ethan. Not because I was ashamed, at least, not entirely, but because I knew, if I looked at him, truly looked at him, I would do it again and again until I crossed a line I could never uncross, the kind of line that destroyed marriages, families, reputations, and yet my body ached from the memory of his hands. Greg had left town the day before, under the pretense of a networking retreat, which was just code for do not ask questions. He no longer made the effort to hide his disinterest. He stopped calling, stopped texting, and when he did speak to me, his voice held that indifferent edge that made me feel like a ghost in my own home. Ethan, however, was very much present. That morning, I sat at the kitchen table nursing a mug of black coffee. When he walked in, he was shirtless, again, wet hair from his shower, sweatpants riding low, smug grin intact. "Morning, Claire," he said with that same sultry edge he used when he kissed me 2 nights ago. I stared straight into my coffee and said nothing. "You okay?" he asked, this time quieter, walking to the fridge and pulling out an orange. I swallowed hard. "Fine. You did not look fine last night." I snapped my head up. "What do you mean?" He turned around, leaned against the counter, peeled the orange slowly, segment by segment. "I know you were outside my room." I froze. "Ethan, I wanted you to hear." The words hit me like a slap and a kiss all at once. My breath caught somewhere between fury and arousal. "Why?" I whispered. "Because I want you to know what you do to me," he said, stepping closer. "What you have been doing to me since I got back. And I think you feel it too." I should have screamed. I should have kicked him out, told him to pack his bags and go back to school, but I did not. Because every word was true. Greg and I had not touched each other in months, and when we did, it was brief, cold, and forgettable. But Ethan, he looked at me like I was fire, and he wanted to burn. Later that day, I tried to distract myself. I went out for groceries, took a long drive, stopped at a park, and sat alone, scrolling through photos of my wedding day. Me, in a lace dress, Greg, holding my hand, smiling like a man who had won. But now, all I could see in that smile was manipulation. He lied about everything: his financial situation, his past affairs, even his relationship with his ex-wife, who I discovered had filed for divorce, not because she was unfaithful, but because he was, repeatedly. I felt like a fool, but worse, I felt alone. And when a woman feels alone long enough, she starts reaching for anything that feels warm, even if that warmth is dangerous. When I got back home, Greg had sent a text: "Staying another night, meeting ran long. You good? No, I love you." No concern, no clue what his wife was about to do with his son. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on the back porch. It was quiet, just the soft hum of cicadas and the cool evening breeze brushing my skin. Then I heard the sliding door open behind me. He sat beside me without asking. Close, too close. We sat in silence for a few moments, our bodies almost touching. Then he spoke. "Do you ever think about leaving him?" I exhaled sharply. "More than I want to admit." He turned his head and looked at me with eyes full of dark questions. "If you were mine, I would not let a single night go by without making sure you knew how much I wanted you." "Ethan," my voice was trembling. "No, just listen," he said, shifting close. "You are wasting yourself on a man who does not see you, but I do." I felt his fingers brush against mine. The electricity was instant. My wineglass tilted slightly, and his hand shot out to steady it, his touch firm, his fingers lingering over mine. "I cannot," I whispered. "Yes, you can," he said. "You already have." And then he kissed me, soft at first, like he was asking, then deeper, like he was claiming. I kissed him back. I kissed him because I was angry, hurt, forgotten. I kissed him because I wanted to feel something real. And Ethan was nothing, if not real. He lifted me onto his lap, and I straddled him, there in the night air, on the porch of the house I shared with his father. His hands roamed beneath my robe. My breath hitched as his lips found my neck. It was wrong. It was selfish. It was unforgettable. The days that followed were a tangled mess of guilt and pleasure. Ethan and I would steal moments in the shadows, glances during dinner, his fingers brushing mine as he passed a dish, a whispered word behind Greg's back. And when Greg would leave for work or head out to play golf, Ethan would find me in the laundry room, the garage, the upstairs hallway. I knew it could not last. I told myself it was temporary, a coping mechanism, an escape, until it stopped feeling like escape and started feeling like obsession. Then, one afternoon, everything shifted. I found an envelope in Greg's desk drawer, one that had been partially tucked under a folder. It was addressed to his lawyer. Inside were drafted documents for dividing assets, with my name listed on everything. And not in a good way. According to those papers, Greg was preparing to divorce me and leave me with nothing. I felt the blood drain from my face. My hands trembled. It made no sense. I had been faithful. Until recently, I had supported him, covered for him, sacrificed for him. But Greg was always playing the long game. He was going to leave me, quietly, legally, and take everything. I took photos of the papers, every page, every cruel line. I did not cry. I laughed because now I had my own secret. That night, Greg came home early. I greeted him with a kiss and a smile, pretending nothing had changed. He told me he was tired and went to bed without touching me, like always. But Ethan came to my room later. He knocked softly. When I opened the door, he looked serious. "I want to talk," he said. I let him in, closed the door. He sat on the edge of my bed, and I could tell something had shifted in him too. "I know this started as something reckless," he said, "but I cannot stop thinking about you. I do not want to." I sat beside him, heart pounding. "Ethan, I do not care what anyone thinks. I want you. And then he kissed me again. But this time it was not just about lust. This time it felt like a claim, a vow, a line drawn in the sand, and I crossed it completely. The next morning, while Greg showered upstairs, Ethan stood behind me in the kitchen, pressed his hand against the small of my back, and whispered into my ear, "Tonight, I want you to scream my name, like you mean it." I dropped my coffee mug. Greg came down seconds later, asking, "What happened?" Ethan answered for me. "Cool as ever. She slipped. I helped her." Greg shrugged and walked off. He had no idea his wife and his son were already past the point of no return. But he would find out, and when he did, the real storm would begin. I always believed secrets had a way of suffocating you quietly, like water slowly rising in a locked room. But the secret I was living in, it was different. It was loud, messy, addictive. It did not drown me. It consumed me like fire, and I stopped trying to escape. Ethan and I had crossed a line so bold that even silence could not contain it anymore. Every glance, every breath, every accidental touch had the weight of betrayal hanging on it. And still, I chose him. Not just once, not just in passing. I chose him over and over again, behind closed doors and beneath silken sheets, while the man I married slept just feet away, completely unaware of the destruction forming under his roof. But nothing burns forever, and the flame between Ethan and me was about to set everything to ash. 1 week after I found Greg's hidden divorce documents, I started planning my revenge, not just to save myself, but to win. Greg had spent our entire marriage calculating his moves like a chess master, charming me with just enough sweetness to keep me tethered, then slowly eroding my trust with late nights, lies, and manipulation. And now, after stealing my love and time, he wanted to take everything else: our home, our savings, my security. But I was not the same woman who fell in love with his tailored suits and surface level charm. I had changed. Ethan had changed me. While Greg pretended to be the good husband, I began digging deeper. I checked credit card statements, company emails, hidden folders on his laptop, and what I found made my blood run cold. He was not only preparing for a divorce, he had been hiding accounts, shifting money into off-the-book investments under his brother's name, even selling small properties he claimed he never owned. I documented everything. I took screenshots, downloaded files, forwarded them to a private email I created under a fake name, and then I made an appointment with a lawyer. It was not about protecting myself anymore. It was about preparing for war. One evening, as Greg showered after a fake golf outing, I sat across from Ethan on the patio. The summer air was thick, sticky with heat and tension. "He is hiding assets," I said plainly. Ethan leaned forward. "Can you prove it?" I nodded. "I already have." He studied me for a moment, then smiled. "I underestimate you. No one ever sees the fire until it is burning down their house." There was a pause between us, weighted and dangerous, and then he said, "Let me help you finish this. By making sure you never go back to him. Not emotionally, not physically." He stood, stepped closer, and pulled me into him right there on the patio, beneath the stars and the soft hum of the neighbor's sprinkler. His mouth devoured mine, hungry and possessive, and before I could blink, I was in his arms again, legs wrapped around his waist, both of us barely breathing from the force of it. I did not care about the neighbors. I did not care that Greg was upstairs. I cared that I felt alive for the first time in years. The next morning, Greg sat at the kitchen table, flipping through the newspaper as if nothing had changed. But something had. Everything had. I stood across from him, in my robe, sipping coffee, and quietly studying the man I had once thought I would grow old with. He looked tired, gray, oblivious. He glanced up and said, "I need you to sign some papers later. Just tax stuff. No big deal." I smiled. "Of course. I trust you." He went back to reading. I went back to plotting. Later that night, the tension in the house reached a fever pitch. Ethan and I had agreed to keep our distance for the sake of subtlety, but the looks we exchanged said otherwise. I was in the bedroom with Greg when he pulled out the paperwork he mentioned.
But this time, I was ready. These are not tax forms, I said, flipping through the pages. He froze. Why are you trying to hide money from me, Greg? He scoffed. What are you talking about? I know about the properties, the accounts, the fake names. He stood up, face shifting from surprise to rage. You went through my things? You lied to me. For years about everything. You are crazy, he snapped, but I was not afraid of him anymore. I pulled out a flash drive and placed it gently on the nightstand. Everything is backed up, every file, every transfer, every dirty lie. He stared at me, jaw tight. What do you want? To watch you lose. What followed was a week of Cold War inside our house. We slept in the same bed, but never touched. We shared meals in silence. Greg's phone was constantly in his hand, texting God knows who. I knew he was trying to cover his tracks, but it was too late. I had already sent everything to my lawyer, and through it all, Ethan was my escape. He would sneak into my room at night, or meet me in the garage, or take me into the guest bathroom, press me against the sink, and kiss me until I forgot what betrayal felt like. He was no longer just a lover, he was my weapon. But weapons are dangerous when you lose control of them. One night, Ethan came to me in my room. His eyes were wild. He had been drinking. I want to tell him, he said. My heart stopped. No, I am tired of hiding. I want you, not in secret, not like this. Ethan, we cannot. He grabbed my face in both hands. I love you, Claire. I blinked. He had never said that before, and I did not know what to do with it. The next day, everything exploded. I came home from a walk to find Greg in the living room, his phone in one hand, his other clenched in a fist. He looked up at me, slowly, coldly. You have been fucking my son? My blood went ice cold. I did not respond. He laughed, loud and bitter. How long? Was it before or after you started digging through my files like some desperate housewife? I remained silent. You are disgusting, he hissed. Both of you. Just then Ethan came down the stairs. Leave her alone, he said firmly. Greg turned to him, furious. You think she loves you? You think she wants anything real with you? She does not want you, Ethan fired back. Before I could move, Greg lunged. A shove. A loud crash. Ethan's back hit the wall hard. I screamed, stop, I shouted, pulling Greg away. He glared at both of us, breathing hard, eyes wild. You think you won? You think you can just take everything from me? I walked up to him slowly, with all the calm in the world. I already did. The divorce was messy, public, humiliating for him. I handed over the evidence to the lawyers, the hidden accounts, the real estate fraud. He lost half of everything, and then some. He called me names, tried to shame me, threatened to take Ethan away from me, like I was some predator. But Ethan was an adult, and he made his own choice. We moved out together, into a condo across town. For weeks, the passion between us stayed hot. Every room in that condo held memories, sounds, secrets. But then, something shifted. Ethan wanted more. He talked about marriage, children, a future, but I could not see it. He reminded me of everything I had done, everything I had become. He was not just my lover, he was a mirror, and I no longer liked the woman staring back at me. I left him one quiet morning, packed my bags, left a note, and disappeared. I did not go back to Greg. I did not go back to Ethan. I went back to myself. Now, I live alone, in a small town, with a job I love, and no secrets to suffocate me. Do I regret what I did? Sometimes, but other times, when the nights are long and silent, I remember the way Ethan said my name, and I remember exactly why I let him.